and welcome to this session of Talking Tech, Women and Girls in ICT. My name is Yulu. I'm a current Ph.D. student at University of Warwick. Today, I'm delighted to have a discussion about tech and tech career with our wonderful guest, Ms. Bolor Erdene Battsengel, the Chairwoman, Government of Mongolia's Communication and Information Technology Authority. Talking Tech is a series celebrating girls and women in tech. It's being recorded around the world between Girls in ICT Day 2020 and Girls in ICT Day 2022. Girls in ICT Day is an international day marked on the fourth Thursday of each April. The objective is to help create a global environment that encourages young women to consider studies and career in the field of information and communication technologies. The Talking Tech series is brought to you by the ITU, UNICC, the Office of UN Secretary General's Envy of Youth, and it's in support of Equals, the global partnership of gender equality in the digital age. So hi, Ms. Bolor Erdene Battsengel, and thank you for joining me today. I know you have studied public policy at University of Oxford and previously worked at World Bank, United Nations, and Asian Development Bank. You have also co-founded a research company, Access Solution LLC, to provide data-driven solution to your client. And now you hold the leadership of CITA. What is more inspiring to me is the fact that you are the youngest and first female to this position. So just to kick things off, would you mind telling us more about how did you make all this pivot from an international organization staff to a researcher, to an entrepreneur, and now to a high-level government officer?
Hi, thanks for having me. It's my pleasure to be here. And greetings from Mongolia. And so far it's minus 25 degrees in Mongolia. It's one of the coldest capital city of the world. And still girls manage to look very pretty during the winter. So it's my honor to share my experience. So I was born in the countryside of Mongolia, a very remote area. And when I was in fourth grade, my parents they found a job in the city. So we moved to the city. And when I started my middle school in the capital city of Mongolia, I experienced a lot of bully coming from countryside, and I didn't really feel I belonged there. So and I didn't have many friends here as well. So I focused my attention to my studies. So I skipped 3 years from my middle school and high school, and by the time when I finished my high school, I was 14, and I finished my undergrad when I was 18. So I started my career by working as a gender specialist at Asian Development Bank in Mongolia at the age of 18. So now I'm 29. So I already have almost 11 years of career.
Very young
So
age to start your career at 18. It's very impressive. And also, even though you are very young, you already have, very long time of working career. So I think you have a lot to tell us.
I don't know if it's very natural to say it like these are the pivots I did to get to this career, but I think I have one simple principle, which is do the next right thing. So every time I shifted from job to job, career to career, or I pursued my MPP or any master degrees, I thought this is the right next step. So especially for people who struggle to see long future, or who doesn't have long-term dream or career they dream of. I think it's very important to do the next right thing and not pressuring yourself to have lifelong dreams and try to achieve that. I think in life I've met a lot of people who are great, who are talented, are extraordinary in their sectors, and who are very successful. But from their stories, there are very few people who are, who knew what they were supposed to do. So I think simple one rule I would say to young people, young girls out there, is to do the next right thing. And from there on, you see a bit clearer picture, and you find your passion, you find what you want to do for your career, etc., etc. So I think from my career, I always loved international development sector. I always loved working for international organizations and trying to impact the world. But inside, I felt a bit bad for Mongolia for not being able to contribute to my country's development. So it was a big call for me to come back to Mongolia and join the government.
That's very insightful suggestions, because I think many young people, we are struggling to find our lifelong goal, because we are on the way to looking for the real passion we are holding for life, and that's sometimes take a bit longer than we expect. And when it's longer than we expect, we feel upset, we feel confused, lost. And I think doing the next right thing might be, you move baby step forward, and then you will realize you have grown up much more than you would imagine at the first place. And also,
Yeah,
I
completely
will
agree.
I would like to know is what brought you to the specific social and political issues around technology? Because I know you focus on international development and gender equality in in the previous international organization you worked for, and now you are more focusing on tech-related issues. So what brought you to that?
hmm So I did my grad school at University of Oxford, and after Oxford, I did some internship and some consultancy for the UK government, and we worked on e-governance index, and I have studied a lot of countries e-governance and how e-governance have impacted their development and really accelerated their development in general. So it really impressed me. And when I look at Mongolia, we saw technology as one sector rather than using it cross-sectoral to really fasten the improvement and use technology to solve social issues. So I was working for the World Bank in Australia, and I was in Mongolia temporarily to visit my parents. And I saw Mongolia, and there are a lot of social issues that we could solve by using technology, and there are a lot of simple solutions we could do. And at the time, it was very good timing because Oxford cooperated with Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and they were working on a project called Digital Pathways. So Digital Pathways aimed to help countries to do the research on digital development readiness and develop strategies for developing countries to really transition to digital economy from traditional economy. So the project sounded very interesting to me, and I applied, and we got the project. And for that reason, I actually quit my job from Australia and moved to Mongolia. And we have conducted this nationwide survey on digital development. What's the bottleneck? How do we use technology? How do we improve digital inclusion, etc., etc. And turns out the government was the main biggest bottleneck of all. So we don't have e-governance. The government have become the center of corruption, center of red tape bureaucracy, And it kind of also blocked many companies to be innovative, to use digital signature to introduce tech-based products because of the lack of the legal framework. So we asked for help from the government of Mongolia, and current president, who was the prime minister at the time, and the cabinet secretary, who is now current prime minister of Mongolia, Mr. Ayorton, um, were very supportive of the project. So we did the survey. We have developed 6-step strategy for the government, and we pitched it to government. So in 2019, we started the Mongolia project. But it wasn't going very well for a few months. So after the election in 2020, these people offered me a job to lead the Communications and Information Technology Authority, which is the main ICT agency of Mongolia, to lead this project and really do whatever you're talking about. So in few months, we launched in Mongolia in the 1st of October 2020 with 181 services. So it's been over a year now since we launched, and exactly a year after last year in 1st of October, we launched version 2.0, which is artificial intelligence based, so we can offer citizens what they need from the government without them applying for services to the government. We have almost 90% of the population actively using e-Mongolia. And because of the COVID-19, it impacted people and encouraged a lot of people to use online services and use online platforms to get their services or meet their needs. So we have introduced free delivery systems. There are a lot of PR campaigns, media campaigns. We encourage people to use eMongolia. So far, we have saved about 20 million US dollars from the government just for digitalizing the services. So we have seen a lot of efficiency in budget, state budget, and most importantly, we have started fighting against corruption by digitalizing government services. In Mongolia is one of the most appreciated projects of the government by the citizens, according to some research.
That is very impressive project. And I can imagine when you are launching this platform, you are building it from scratch, because previously in Mongolia, there's no such thing exist. And I can imagine there must be a lot of challenges when you are making that happen. Can you talk about the biggest challenges you have met during this process?
Mm-hmm. Um, uh, there have been a lot of issues, obviously, and when you kind of bring new things to long-established institutions like government, it's very hard for civil servants, government employees to adapt, and for the citizens to understand or start using. So I think from my side, my leadership has been more. I would say I was brave. I wasn't afraid of all the political factors. I thought this has to be done. And the bright thing is that younger generation supported me, and that encouraged me so much. So I can sacrifice a lot of things. So I can be brave and fight against the old system, existing red tape bureaucracy. So yeah, I think it's every time you try to do something new, it's very essential that you believe in your team, you believe in your concept, and most importantly, you know that there will be a good impact.
That sounds very great. You just mentioned about your team, and I think for younger generation, it's a bit difficult for us to really make a connection and find the right people who is having the same goal as us. how can we be more persuasive to make people believe us, since we are, we're less experienced, we're young, so to many people's eyes, we may see less credible to them, So how can you bring all these talented people and make them believe in you, believing the thing that you're gonna make fabulous changes?
I think for leadership, it's very important that you're working as hard as them, or working even harder than your team. So you're not talking, but you are doing. So when your team looks at you and looks at you working hard, I think they get inspired and they start trusting you. There are many people who doesn't work, but more like a free riders, or you know, not really jump into the details. I'm very detail oriented, so I I don't like hierarchy in the government. I work with the lowest secretaries, assistants. I get to know the people and I try to acknowledge their skills despite their positions. I know there has to be rules and other protocols you have to follow, but for projects like in Mongolia to do the breakthrough, it's very important to know who has what skills in your team. So it's very important to acknowledge who does what in your team.
Yeah, so when you wanna move forward with your team, you have to, walk shoulder by shoulder with them to pursue the shared goal you have. That's very insightful. So I have read from the news. CITA now is working on building the Information Technology Center in Mongolia to improve citizens, especially young people's digital literacy skills. So what do you think is the biggest obstacle young people, especially young women, have if they want to pursue a tech-related career?
So when we look at the statistics, the people who are studying in bachelor's degree, only 2.3% is studying information science or technology for their undergrad. And but for some cases for technology, we don't really need degrees. We need skills. So for that reason, I initiated a project called Girls Code in Mongolia, where we bring girls from poor families together, and we organize a boot camp for them, and we bring tech engineers, software engineers from big companies and teach the girls. And after 3 months, they're very skilled coders, and 10 of them already got into big universities in the UK and US. And I think 12 people who are high school students are working part time for big IT companies. So they earn much higher than I earn in government position, which I really am happy about the result of the project. And these girls go back to their communities and teach them. So for that reason, because we have seen the good impact of that, it's very important that we have information technology center, especially where we have seen the most digital divide. So there are various ways, various factors that are causing digital divide. It's the age, older people are slow to learn technology, it's income, it's education gap, it's location as well. We have a lot of people living in the remote areas as a herder community. So it's very important for us to reach to the people who are remote and who are disabled and who are from poor families. And from this year, we are going to expand the Girls Code and really bring both girls and boys and do a boot camp and teach them English as well as coding. And we're also going to organize training for the teachers, local teachers who are teaching the students. And also we have a Mongolia bus, and we go to countryside, we teach older people, we visit nomadic families, we teach how to use Mongolia. For digitally literate people, it doesn't matter how many online contents we make, how many videos we make online or on the TV. The best way to really educate them is to go there and teach them. And that's the best practice we've learned so far. So for centers like this, it's very important where we have the centers and young people, old people, anyone go there and kind of gain some skills. So the way we pitch e-Mongolia is that we think of e-Mongolia as one product. Most of the government services, they don't think it is as a product. They think it's a mandatory. So someone has to take it, so we don't care. But for us, e-Mongolia is the biggest product we have. So we pitch them, we teach them, and we try to make them understand the importance of using e-Mongolia.
I think when you talk about in Mongolia, the platform, it's more like it's not only just a governmental service citizens should use. It's more like because when you are developing some governmental service, you make it like you make it less user-centered than private sector does it. Because when a private company, they are really trying to sell their product, they will make it, make it more user-centered. But because I started this subject for my PhD study, I noticed that for government, they feel less obligated to make their service as well as their product less focus on users experience. So I really like the idea that you make this platform user-centered and you listen to what citizens want for this platform. And I think that's the reason why this is so successful within Mongolia now. And also you mentioned the Go Coder program. I think the best way to lift someone from poverty is through education, and also you make the digital, data science, computer science education accessible to young people, especially people in the remote area who has less access to those education. It's very important for them because I think through internet, they can explore much more they can learn from school. So I think it's a really great project. And one thing I would like to know is when you are building this platform, I can imagine you have to work with with people with very diverse background, tech people, they are developing this platform, the government officer who may welcome or resist, I guess more resist this service, and the general public whose life get impacted by this platform. So when you are facing different stakeholder, you might use different strategy to let them understand what you need for this platform. So can you share more about the strategies you use with different stakeholders?
We have various stakeholders, including politicians, decision makers, policy makers, government leaders, as well as citizens and private sector. So our focus is that the beneficiary of e-Mongolia has to be citizens. It shouldn't be political leader, it shouldn't be private sector, but it should be citizens. So that's our principle. And every time we work on different stakeholders, it's very important for us to not forget that. We have political leadership from the prime minister, and we have done we promote when, for example, one ministry digitalizes their services, we promote the ministry and we acknowledge it, and we tell people that this ministry is very good because they are avoiding corruption by digitalizing their services. So that's one way to go with decision makers and politicians. For policymakers, there are a lot of data that kind of weren't used before, but we have a lot of data to really learn about our citizens. So we can do policies that are based on data. So it's data-driven policymaking. So for policymakers, that's our keyword. It's very, very important to use this data efficiently to learn about our citizens and to offer them good services, good policies that they really need in their lives. And for private sector, we kind of open the opportunities for private sector where they can introduce their payment system, where they can use e-Mongolia's authentication system. So we are very, very open to collaborate with the private sector, where we can learn from them and they can learn from us and collaborate and really make it better for our citizens.
That's excellent. So maybe you can share with us more about some particular issues you and your department will focus in the coming years, especially, after the pandemic. I think this will change the dynamic of how you work and what you need to focus.
So we have a centralized backend system. We're going to make it decentralized. We are trying to introduce big data to our policies, and we are also planning to improve our authentication system. But most importantly, we want to complete the digital transformation, which means that we want to digitalize all the government services except registering marriage or registering divorce or buying a property or selling a property. These are more emotionally made decisions. So you need to think twice to do that. But the others, all the government services will be digitalized in the next 2 years or so. So we can focus on different things. And we want to, we have actually new ministry established. So CITA, the Communications and Information Technology Authority, now has become Ministry of Digital Development. And I have been appointed as the State Secretary of the ministry. So for ministry, we are planning to promote startup companies. We are going to create innovation centers and clusters, and we want to expand our collaborations with different countries. For many countries, we have a lot to learn, so we want to collaborate to learn from them. And for many developing countries, we have a lot of success stories that we can simply share, so they don't have to waste time.
That's great. Since I come from China, Guizhou province, actually in our province, we are the first province in China who set up a big data department in China. So we are more advanced in the big data industry, especially for governmental use in China. So this last summer, I visited this department and I talked to the head of this department. And what they told me is the movement for e-governance, the leadership is very crucial. If you have a leader who is, all in this e-governance movement, it will flourish very quickly. But if this leader move to next position, if next leader is less into this movement, it will fade very quickly. So what do you think you will do in Mongolia to make this e-governance movement more sustainable? Even maybe one day you promote to another higher position, your fruit, the result you're having now will still be sustainable.
That's very, very, very good question, and I really appreciate you for asking that. We have very high rate of political instability, so that's very crucial for us. So first way is that by introducing new Mongolia, we want to introduce standards, certain level of standards. So whenever a new government leader comes or new things go, it should not lower the standard. It should only improve the standard. It should only improve the services. So for us, the best way we figured is to really deliver very high standard level of services to citizens. So we are a democratic country, and whenever somebody kind of lowers the standard, they will they will come up and say it's not as good as before. So it's very important for us to introduce the standard. Secondly, we are planning to, and we are still working with young people to become the next leaders of digital transformation. And we are trying to making sure nobody's left behind the digital development. So we want young people, whether they're from poor family or disabled community or even from rich family, despite all this, we want to create young leaders who will lead to digital economy. So it's very important that our younger generation and young generation supports that, while also older generation understands it.
That's excellent. So just to finish our discussion, maybe you can share some advice for our audience, the girl and younger woman who is working in tech industry.
I can understand that there are some challenges when working in tech industry. It's very new, it's booming, but we haven't have very set cultures that are already set. And sometimes it can be very challenging. But I would like to encourage girls all around the world to be very, aware of that and use that opportunity to set your own standards, to give your own messages, and to ensure it's inclusive and to ensure that other girls from different parts of the world can take part of digital development. So whenever there is a woman, I think there is more inclusions because they care about their children, they care about their parents more than the guys, at least from my personal experience. So for the girls out there, I would like to say be brave and do the next right thing.
Thank you very much.